Awesome, dude. Can't beat pool on Memorial Day weekend with friends and family. It sounds great.
And now we get to talk about our favorite topics on a Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon on the East Coast, for early afternoon on the West Coast.
It absolutely the best time of the week. I know we're delayed a day this week just because of Memorial Day weekend. But I'm sure a lot of people will tune in for the recording on this one. Top of mind, Raf, have we reached the bottom in ordinals? I saw over the weekend we got a huge day for node monkeys. There was a few concurrent days over 1 million in volume. Floor price still oscillating in that low 0.22 to mid 0.25 range. And puppets, it seemed like they were on a spiral down to 0.1, but then have had some serious volume over the past 2 days at, again, $1 million of volume concurrent days. And the floor is floating between 0.13 and 0.14 right now.
I think if we're not at the bottom, we are so close that it probably doesn't really matter at this point if it's the actual bottom, because realistically, I don't see like Bitcoin puppets going below the 0.1, node monkeys 0.21. I think I saw quantum cats at like 0.28. So if we're not at the bottom, I think it's very, very close. But it's funny. I normally like to go unscripted, but I did a little research before the show today, and I actually want to kick it off with my thoughts on Bitcoin, and then I think how that flows down to ordinals makes a lot more sense. I just think we're seeing that action that we keep talking about, the chop. We had, I want to say early going into the weekend, we hit 70K again. Things started looking like, oh, this might be the start of the run. And we pulled back today, right? We pulled back today, I think, due to the Mount Gox selling. And I was just looking at the price action, I think people are kind of bored. I want to say the natives are restless. So I just wanted to do a little bit of research, and I went back to see how many times was Bitcoin over 60,000 prior to this year. And just some interesting numbers that I think puts things in perspective is in 2021, Bitcoin spent a total of 40 days over 60,000. And then you fast forward to this year, 2024, Bitcoin breached 60K on February 28th. And since then, it's literally spent every single day since that day over 60K, with the exception of 2 days where it finished in the high 50s. And then of those 87 days over 60K, 11 of them have been over 70K. So I think you can see the real resistance is at 70. We haven't quite broken through, but we've established a really firm floor. We're now 2.5 times the amount of days over 60,000 in 2024 than we've been in the history of Bitcoin, right? So that gives me confidence that 60 looks like a really solid floor. And then I just think once we break this 70K resistance, this might be the last train stop before we really take off. And so it makes betting on Bitcoin quite easy, in my opinion. And then how does that flow into ordinals? I would say the market is bored. People are selling off. It's been a slow bleed, and this is the opportunity to I say figure out what your conviction is and what ordinals ahead of the market, and get in your position early before the next move. Because once Bitcoin really breaks through that 70K resistance and really starts taking off, there's no doubt about it that ordinals and runes are going to follow right after it.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good perspective, man. I mean, just crazy to think that it was only 60 days. You say 60 or 40 days?
40 days prior to 2024.
Yeah. So 40 days, and now since February, only 2 days where it hasn't been. And I mean, it's also just crazy when you think about where ordinals have come from, right? Obviously floors have fallen down quite a bit, but it was just a moon mission from, puppets in particular, they broke 0.07. I remember I had a few then. It went up to like 0.1 for one day, came back, hung around 0.05 to 0.7, and then it was just like straight to 0.4. And same with node monkeys. They were hanging around 0.15, 0.17 for months, and then just took off to 0.8. So, to your point of it had a crazy peak before 2021 4 and held there for only a little bit, but then just went firmly past it with a nice floor. I definitely can see that parallel to where we're at right now with ordinals. I was thinking this weekend, like, how low could puppets realistically go? I just don't see a world where they could actually sustain below 0.08 without people going in and buying a lot of them. So I do think we're going to start to see a consolidation. I mean, we've been seeing it, but to your start of the episode, it really is getting hard to think that we can go much lower here on these collections that are, pretty much blue chip, have had some huge buys already throughout the course of the year. There's just so much invested in them. I can't imagine they just disappear.
That node monkey sweep that you mentioned, I saw that too. And like, see, that's a person who's early on their conviction and they're making a move before the market like confirms they're correct. I think those are the type of moves we should be looking to make. Like just get in early with your conviction. And that's how you get like your biggest gains, I think. So I think we're at that point now where the reward far like exceeds and outweighs the risk at these prices, so that's how I'm looking at ordinals. As far as runes, I look at runes as sort of like, when it's shitcoining season, and we know how like that chart looks like when a coin first deploys, right? It's like that big green candle followed by like that this slope down, right? And then it's really at that point it's a matter of like the timing of your buys and sells, and some people capitulate and sell, and then it pops up and you're in disbelief, like it came back from the dead, and then it starts mooning again. So I think like runes is in that phase. We're only 2 months into runes. And I think like we've been consolidating. I think we've hit like a accumulation phase at this point. And like they're gonna make another run too. I just see ordinals and runes are gonna make some spectacular runs. I'm getting actually excited thinking about it at these prices, because like just doing that little research on Bitcoin gives me like extreme confidence that like we just really need to break this 70K resistance, and then the train is leaving the station.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you, Af. I do, wonder what is the correlation or the spillover. Where is there a point where if Bitcoin goes to 100K, are people still going to want to be exposed to that beta play? I think it's just a question of where that money is coming from and going into ordinals. But I do think it makes sense that even if it lags for a little bit, like let's say Bitcoin goes to 70 to 100, once it starts to trade sideways, I think to your point, people will get bored and look for similar plays, because I'm sure Bitcoin and ETH have a lot of running to do since their ETF approval, but it usually goes not linearly, right? It's not going to just shoot up overnight to 140. I mean, it can in crypto, but it's not going to just stay there and forever just go straight up. So I think during those pockets of sideways movement, once we've gotten some run ups, some people have made some money, maybe they're looking to put it somewhere else. I definitely think they're going to be looking to ordinals, because once you get that taste of multiplying Bitcoin in your wallet, and you're confirmed and convicted in being a long-term holder of Bitcoin, it's just a question of how can you get more with what you already have.
Yeah, I mean it's the wealth effect. Like at the end of the day, like people don't necessarily denominate their portfolio value in BTC. They're still looking at the dollar value. So when the Bitcoin dollar value goes up, they're just going to feel wealthier and be more apt to spend, right? When you have more money, you're more likely to spend than when you have less money. So I just think like that plays into it. And then, as we see like a sweep of this particular ordinal collection and a sweep of that one, all of a sudden those floors that would look like they were thickening last week, all of a sudden start thinning out a bit, and then they start getting raised up. And then when FOMO kicks in, like that's what motivates people to start buying, right? So I think that's what we're going to see, and I don't know how fast that's going to play out, but I totally see that happening.
Yeah, totally agree with you there, Waf. I actually did buy a puppet this weekend on a low bid. Was thinking of moving on past puppets, but just saw the floor briefly dip below 0.1, and then it really just got swept back up. And I mean, the community is there. They're pretty fervent, so I definitely think it's a good place to buy. Was putting in some bids on quantum cats as well as node monkeys. It didn't get filled right where I wanted to. It was funny, a few times there were sales below my bids. I think people just took offer accepted as opposed to taking the lower one in the collection, but that's how it goes sometimes, or the higher bid in the collection. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a matter of time, and it just seems like node monkeys below 0.2, quantum cats below 0.24. Like they're just really great prices there, I feel like.
Yeah, even now, if you look at Bitcoin puppets, we're back at 0.138. So that's like a really big rebound. So if you have that conviction to buy at 0.1, you're already up like 40%. I mean, so there's still like moves to be made, at these lower levels for sure. My favorite Nat Cats, they've held pretty steady. I've been noticing a lot more Nat Cat related content on my timeline. I think because of the Royals mint last week, which was originally supposed to reveal, I believe, yesterday, but they pushed that back till next Monday. I was very, very excited about that one. I had a one guaranteed mint, but I was able to mint, believe it or not, 55 during first come, first serve.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's insane.
Indeed. So that's going to be my next conviction play is the Royals. I can't wait for that reveal on Monday.
Dude, I'm looking forward to that for you. We'll have a lot to talk about next week. I only minted one because I just did it during the phase 4 and I was out during the first come first serve. But that sounds like an absolute cook. And yeah, I mean, hopefully that'll pump both Nat Cats and Royals. That would be a huge celebration. But yeah, it definitely seems like we're getting to that point where prices are only going to go so much lower. And I certainly think with runes, I was just looking at it today. Like there's still a pretty big barrier to entry in terms of the technology. But you have Dog go to the moon at over 500 million market cap. I think the Fehu runes is technically over $1 billion market cap, but it's sort of a weird structure since most of it was pre-mined and those haven't gone anywhere. So the people are, selling small portions of the supply to give it that market cap. But yeah, even the top coin being at 500 million, it just shows it has so much room to grow. And I'm sure we saw similar to Ordinals, it really just took those top collections of node monkeys and puppets pumping. And then, once that pump happened, it was a lot easier for other collections to follow suit. We've seen that with NFTs before. We've seen that with pretty much any limited supply asset on the market. Once something breaks that barrier, it's easy for others to follow. So I'm sure with runes, we'll see a situation of one or two pop off and then create this new, rune summer or whatever season it is, where people just look at that for the next big flip.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I've been noticing people have been doing pretty well with the lower cap runes. So it seems like people have been minting and things have been popping off on I want to say on the lower market cap side. On the higher end, it's really just Dog that seems to have like just taken off, because the other quote unquote blue chip runes have been sort of lagging. So like Pups, I think, as that whole migration happens, seems to have dipped quite a bit. Arsic as well. I just think the volume is not there to support like the 3 runes right now, those 3 major runes, I guess. So it's all going to Dog at the moment. And then we're still waiting on that Wizards conversion. But yeah, this looks like people are playing the cool, funny memes on runes, like newer mints, and like making some gains like that on the lower market caps.
Yeah, it's interesting that it would just randomly be those. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Maybe that was the effect of a few of those popped off, and now there's people looking at it. Maybe there's just people who are thinking that the bottom has been in, and it's time for some excitement. But yeah, it's definitely cool to start seeing some projects pop off and getting some volume across ordinals and runes. Any plays you're looking at to take with some of the volume trickling in? You think we're there yet, or you still think we have some chop ahead of us?
Still think the chop is ahead of us for now. So don't think we're going to vertically go up, but I do think we're like towards the bottom. So I think just selective, targeting of particular collections or runes that you want to get into makes a lot of sense. I think you have like an opportunity to, I guess, ladder in So if you want to get in on a particular ordinal and you want to buy a few, you probably could time it like, one at a time over a course of time. Same thing with, I think, with runes. So I think I'm just going to like start laddering in some new positions, pretty much based on price. Like, it's not like I'm still looking at the things that I always look at. So it's really I'm going to let price be like the determining factor on which ones I actually pull the trigger on.
Gotcha, Rav. And then for that, is there any kind of like system you're using to determine the price? Is it just based off of numbers that you've seen or that you think would be the bottom? Like, I'm curious how you determine that in your head.
I think like I kind of look at the floors every day, so I always have a good sense of the floors, and then I also have like a sense of how many sort of to like the next level. So maybe like I might say like if I look at say I'll just use Natcats as an example. The floor is 0.024. Then I'll kind of count like how many to 0.03 and how many to 0.035 and something like that. So then sometimes when I see someone list something like at 0.02 or 0.021, and those are sort of like outliers compared to the like the current floor and not that many more to like the next level. Those will be the ones that I kind of like jump on. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Nice, Waf. I think that's a really good segue just to, talk about potential plays that you can make right now. And we've talked about this before, but I do think with that point of outliers, there's really some good plays to be made. You do have to be kind of vigilant. Like, I think a lot of the stuff happens during non-peak hours of trading. I live on PST and I just constantly see that past midnight here, floors will start to drop a little bit. You can place out some offers. I sometimes will just look at activity and sort of see like, where did someone buy in ordinal, what are they kind of trying to achieve? Because I will say at these low prices, there's a lot of people who are looking for those small flips, right? A lot of people are buying puppets at 0.125 and trying to sell them for 0.13. So I have noticed that with some of these floors, they get recycled a lot. And you kind of want to see, is this person who's trying to list at 0.13, is that someone who's looking to make a small profit, or is it someone who bought at 0.3 and they might need exit liquidity and they want to get it quickly? So for some of these collections, what I've been doing recently is just, if I can tell, okay, hey, they're already taking a loss on this, maybe they just want out, I'll just put it maybe like 0.005 or 0.01 below what their ask is. And a lot of these people, they're just happy to be out and have gotten some fills that way. So I do think that just kind of that outlier, if you want to do that to either get a good deal and hold for the long term or make a quick flip, both are pretty viable ways to just make some small profit during this time.
Yeah, I agree with that. That auto, I guess, like sell on option on Magic Eden, is that based on the lowest bid on the collection?
Yes. So you can place collections bids similar to an individual item, and you can designate how much time you want to leave it up there, and you can see everyone else's bids that are there. So you can go ahead and check for puppets. I know last night was actually an interesting one because the floor for pretty much the entire day was right around 0.13, maybe a little bit beyond that. And overnight there was one guy who just sold like 9 of them at once, but there weren't a lot of bids in because they had all expired from that day. So suddenly, the floor was just at 0.13, and then some guy decided to sell 9 or so of them into 0.11 bids because there was just nothing there. So very briefly, the floor dipped to like 0.115, and then this morning it was right back to 0.129. So it's really interesting to monitor that as well, and I definitely recommend, if you're looking to get some stuff, you can look at those bids and sometimes just get the right spot at the right time. That's what I was doing for Quantum Cats. I didn't want to undercut the floor too much, I didn't want to jump the gun because there's a big gap between bids and floor. So I was kind of just strategically placing myself in those bids where if someone wanted to get out, sell a few Quantum Cats at once, I'd get a fill. If not, whatever, but was hoping to ticket and just get a really low bid fill.
I wasn't aware of the collection offer because I was always placing bids individually on each of the ordinals, which it takes quite a while. So that option is actually really good to know. So I just learned something there. And then just kind of going back to specifically to Bitcoin puppets, like so now we've rebounded back up to 0.139, and I was just looking like if there's like another 40, 50 sales, the floor is all of a sudden like 0.17, and if you look at like the sales for the last 24 hours, there's been 82 sales. So you're talking about maybe half the volume with like no additional listings, moves puppets back up to 0.17. So those are like the type of like metrics I'd like kind of just look at, just kind of eyeballing to like make assessments and determinations on what I'm looking for. So I think honestly the Bitcoin puppets floor is pretty thin. It's rebounded quite well. So that opportunity to really get one at the puke bottom, I think is gone.
Yeah, totally agree with you there, Waf. And I mean, just for the people listening at home, it's always NFA, but it does seem like a good opportunity. It's just a matter of you having good risk reward lines, essentially. I mean, like I've mentioned, there's a lot of people who are trading sort of the bottom range of puppets and recycling them up to the top. So they'll just be buying for a 0.01 profit. We have seen, I'd say within the past 48 hours, there was one puppet sale below 0.1. So it is possible that someone can just panic sell and sell a few, but whenever it does reach that real puke price of below 0.1, the floor just gets snatched up almost immediately. And again, we're just thinking of what was the price action that got us here. We're coming off of 0.44 floors, a lot of people buying in the 0.3 and 0.2 range. So naturally, there's going to be some capitulation. There's going to be people who lose faith. But they're still holding relatively good holder count, and I would just continue to look at them. We've seen just a ton of volume coming in. It's hard to compare volume, I've noticed, with ordinals to Ethereum. At first, I would always make that comparison of like, oh, ETH or Solana, they're doing 20 million a day or 10 million a day. But with ordinals, there's really only like 5 or so true blue chip collections that gain a lot of volume. So I still think it's pretty substantial when you see over $1 million in sales on any given day on puppets or node monkeys. Like, that's still crazy to have just for an individual collection, right? It's a fraction of what Bored Apes used to do, but it's a different time and a different ecosystem. So I still think, considering how early it is on these things and just how diamond handed some of the holders are, that kind of inflows after a big drop off is something to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw this offer feature is actually really nice. I'm looking at Node Monkeys. So even in the sales activity, it tells you when a sale was made from an offer. So it says offer accepted. So I'm looking like in the last 3 hours, it looks like there's been 5 offers accepted at 0.20951. So that might be like the route to go. Like, just put in some offers below the floor on the as a collection if you don't really care which one you're going to actually receive. Leave it out there for like a couple days, and maybe you get filled at below the floor. It's like an instant 0.01, 0.02 potentially.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely been going on for the past couple of days, and you got to keep in mind sort of the fee associated with it. I've noticed some people do it for just stupidly small sums, like they're relisting it and they're maybe making 0.002 after all is said and done. Profit is profit, but if you're buying an $8,000 asset to make $100, I think that's a bit risky because obviously the floor can fall out at you at any point. But if you're comfortable with these bands, if you're comfortable holding a little bit longer, if things go wrong, I mean, I would say the absolute lowest I would realistically see puppets is like 0.08. If just shit hit the fan, you know, maybe lower, but it's hard to really see them below 0.1 with Bitcoin holding strength here. And same with quantum cats. I could maybe see them blip to like 0.19 briefly, but I think their mint price was like 0.1 or 0.15, and they were pretty, actually it might have been 0.08. It was a pretty low mint price though, and I think the lowest they really ever got after mint day was like 0.14. So I just think at some of these we're pretty dang close to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely don't flip for 0.002 profit. I would only like look to make these bids on collections that I'm actually into that I want to purchase, with the expectation that the floor is going to rise. So then like that spread just gets a little bit wider. Just add a little, tack on another 10-20% gain on something like a Node Monkey. Because I mean, last week, I think when we did the show last week, I think Node Monkeys was like at 0.27. So if you're like confident in Node Monkeys and you could get filled at 0.20 on an offer, and then even though the floor right now is still 0.22, if we move back up to 0.27, now you're talking about a 0.07 gain as opposed to, I'm sorry, 0.007 gain as opposed to like a 0.005, like less the fees and everything. So, that offer can at least cover the fees, like that difference.
Yeah, 100%. What I'm hoping to see, WAP, is just sort of a shift from, like we said, to these small flipper types to kind of like the swing traders or long holders. I do think that's still missing from the collections. Like, I think where you're seeing it are these people who are sweeping the floors. Like, you notice that there was this huge Node Monkey sweep. I think someone spent over $1 million there. For puppets, there was a ton of buys from one or two people. Those are the people who are having the collection, and you would imagine when someone's buying 50, 60 node monkeys or puppets, they're probably not going to be just selling for small peanut flips. They're able to. We saw some of that activity back in the Blur days with bids and people farming, but there's really not a whole lot to. I mean, is actually a lot to farm on Magic Eden, but it seems crazy that they would be flipping for such a small profit on such expensive collections. So I'm imagining for these huge sales coming in and sweeps coming in, it's probably for longer term holds. And I think once we see the ordinary person move away from that small 0.1 profit mentality to I'm going for a double up and a triple up, that's when we can start seeing those floors really fly.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's sort of like a game of whale signals. So the whales come in, sweep some floors, then the people tracking those whale wallets start noticing, hey, like this is getting swept, this is getting swept. And then it's sort of like that just add-on effect. So I just think it makes a whole lot of sense to like figure out that conviction for yourself before the market and like get in before the whale sweeps, right? Like front run everybody. We've been talking about what collections like since the first episode, right? So like I think everyone who listens to us knows like what the alpha is, what the ordinals to get in is. I mean, like it's at this point it's not even like it's not a secret, right? We know we like node monkeys, we like puppets, we like quantum cats, we like nat cats. So these are the ones to get into. I think and this is the opportunity, in my opinion. I'm not financial advice, of course, but why wait till the whales sweep this up like 10, 20 times before like making your own play? That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, well said, Waf. I mean, I definitely understand, if you have a smaller bankroll, I think there's lots of different stuff. And we talked about it before, like Waf said, we're really pretty clear about what collections we like. We think there's good levels of exposure at every different price range. With node monkeys and puppets separating a little bit, it makes it a little bit even easier to find a stepping stone, right? If you're looking for the low end, you can definitely go for something like a nat cat that still has a pretty solid floor and some good upside. Puppets, a little bit more risk, but definitely a lot more upside just based on historical price. And then same thing with node monkeys, as well as quantum cats. So there's a lot there. I do think of all of them probably one of the hard to find a safe floor price in NFTs, but it does seem like with Taproot Wizards and just knowing that there's some route to them through quantum cats, those I definitely feel a little bit more comfortable in. If they were to dip below 0.2, I think I would really try to free up some liquidity to get a couple of those. I definitely had a lot of bids in over this weekend. The sales volume has actually been pretty slow on quantum cats. But as we're seeing node monkeys and now puppets pick back up in sales, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rotation or a pop soon here. So hopefully looking to secure a quantum cat there. It just seems like with Taproots down the funnel at some point, I can't really imagine those ever going below 0.1.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I just saw a tweet from Leonidas breaking dog is now worth more than the next 8 largest runes combined. So that doesn't tell you runes is early. I don't know what else to tell you, like runes are very early. On ordinals, I just want to say, like, I think quantum cats makes a lot of sense, right? We already said that collection is low. It has the Taproot Wizards potential if you get that dead one and a live one. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And then I think the reason why people are not really jumping into ordinals is that it's not a short-term play at this point. I think it's more like an intermediary play, right? So you're gonna have to probably hold for a bit. It's not a quick flip, and I know a lot of people like to flip. I just don't think there's a flipping opportunity in ordinals right now. It's more of a longer game. That's why conviction in ordinals kind of matters. Whereas I think in runes, if you get in on some of these runes that are like trending, I think you could make a quick flip. Like I know a lot of people making like 2-3x's on some of these newer runes. So that's why I think the attention is on runes, and I think the attention will go there first. Because again, you can flip that kind of daily or every other day or something like that. Whereas if if you buy an ordinal, like you're probably not looking to flip it the next day. Like, so to your point about like seeing people sweeping node monkeys, they're probably not selling it next week. So that's sort of like that's a positive and a negative, right? It presents like a real opportunity, but it doesn't present the flipper opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. Wow, 100%. I mean, that was really well said. I think we really are, exposed to high speeds in crypto all the time, and people just seem to focus on, shit coins or protocols, whatever it is, that's going to give them that fast cash and that fast flipping. And we do know that a ton of money is just parked in Blast right now. So I was going to say, notably, this is our last episode in May. Next time we'll talk to each other will be in June. So it's definitely possible once June 26th is over, we get the Blast TGE, everyone gets their tokens. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see some of that bleed over into Ordinals picking back up again. But, that's right there, a month timeline. So it will probably take a while for these plays to really come to fruition.
Yeah, I just think with like the summer, like hitting, the Western Hemisphere here, like a lot of things seem to slow down too, right? We touch a lot more grass in the summertime, so I think we just have some time to see things play out. And it wouldn't surprise me if like this is like sort of like the market we're in for the entire summer, and then maybe things start heating up like post Labor Day, where things I feel like people are sort of like back to work, right? And then not only back to work, like really back in the market as well. So like maybe for the next 3 months, it's sort of like touch grass, accumulate the things you like, and then like get ready for September, October, November, December, which I think is gonna be the real popping off season.
Yeah, I love that laugh. I totally agree. I mean, we usually do see it, like they say, sell your bags in May and step away. We're in the heart of it right now. We definitely saw a big sell off following into it, but there definitely is a lot of seasonality, and you usually sort of see that sell off in the May months. Definitely some stepping away in the summer. So yeah, I mean, as when I first started trading, I thought seasonality was pretty silly and just kind of like a pseudoscience. There's a lot of people who have charts imposed over seasonality of the year, but if you just look at it year after year, there is a correlation there of data of just historically in certain months the markets will perform better or worse. So we're definitely leaving a pocket like that. We definitely are going to try to get Shaggy on one of these episodes in June just to have him talk about macros, see if we can find how ordinals and runes coincide with that. But 100%, just give it enough time. If you have a long enough horizon, there's a lot that can still happen. So great shout there.
Yeah, I would say when I was probably like a little bit younger, I didn't necessarily believe in that seasonality, but as I've gotten older, I totally believe it's a thing. And also, I just think like this bull run, we just have more time to go in it. I think we're still early. If I thought the bull run was over, I'd feel different about like everything that we talk about. But the fact that I think Bitcoin has so much more to go, like gives me confidence in everything else below it, right? But like if I thought we were about to enter a bear market, I would want to sell everything, right? But I definitely don't think that way. I think we're just at the like early stages, the early innings of the bull cycle. And we probably got another year run in us at least. I think at least like if we were here May 28th, 2025, we're definitely going to have a 6-digit Bitcoin price, and who knows where runes will be, and who knows where ordinals will be like just 12 months from now.
Yeah, it really is crazy to think where we're going to be when we zoom out. I mean, we're already seeing ETH getting close to 4,000 again, and I think its all-time high was right around the mid 5,000s, and just it feels so different than it did the last time we were here, right? Like you said, Bitcoin was only above 60,000 for 40 days before 2024, and I mean, here we are. It's holding up, and it just doesn't feel like the euphoria that I thought we were going to have. I think the euphoria kind of came when node monkeys were almost a Bitcoin, and node monkeys, and then puppets were close to 0.5. Like it really felt like the top there. People were all over the timeline, kind of stepped into this blast farming zone, and have just kind of been stuck there since. So it's really crazy to just think we're at this point where the actual chains themselves, so Ethereum and Bitcoin, both of their token prices are very close to all-time highs. But it just feels like the markets are bored. So I can't really imagine this being the end of it. I agree with you there. I think there's still going to be another leg of the market. When that happens and what it looks like, TBD, but it certainly seems like this is a consolidation phase if there ever was one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like we're within 10% of the all-time high, and it's a really boring market. And we can make a 10% move in a single day, and the euphoria might not necessarily come back in just one day. But I think once we breach like a 75, all of a sudden, now there's no, basically the sky's the limit. There's no ceiling. And, who's to say that we don't have a $5,000 day, like 75 to 80 or 80 to 85? Who knows, right? I think at that point, once we kind of clear the all-time high, it's sort of like sail to whatever number at that point. And I think that euphoria will like basically trickle down into everything, and then that's where we're going to start seeing like the crazy altcoin season, the crazy ordinal season, the crazy rune season. So that's, we just need that first, honestly, and the longer it takes to get there, I think the more wild it gets when we're actually there.
Yeah, 100% laugh. And, you can never discount FOMO. It's crazy to think, but I mean, people are in a state of panic, or we're in a state of panic where they're jeeting the, ordinals floors down from their highs now down to where they're at now. But I'm pretty confident with puppets, node monkeys, nat cats, quantum cats, whatever it is, once those floors start to run, people are going to be racing in to buy prices way higher than right now. I mean, if there was a floor, I mean, you can already see it right now with puppets. They were chilling at like the 0.1 to 0.12 range for 4 or 5 days. Now suddenly some guy comes out and sweeps 90 or 100 of them in a day, and there's a bunch of sales now above the 0.13 range. And I'm sure as that continues to go, we'll get to a point where if the floor jumped back to 0.2, you'd see a bunch more sales coming in. It's just the people who are willing to front run the whales or the signals or the volume, and then the people who come in afterwards. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, no, like again, it's also like your time horizon. So like look at runestones as an example. Like nobody's like even remotely interested in looking at them. It's at a 0.0091 floor. It still has 2 airdrops to go, right? So that's something you could probably like cheaply accumulate, and then who knows, a month or two, or I don't know how many months down the road, they make an announcement on the next airdrop for it, and like that price could quadruple in floor price. Who knows, right? Like you don't know, and you could have bought it this whole time for like cents on the floor, right? But because nobody wants it, it's just sitting there. So there's like a lot of plays like that. It's just really, is it worth it for you to like invest in that and sit on that and let that play out? Like, or like, if are you patient enough to do something like that? Like, there's a lot of plays like that out there too. Not only, the premium collections, but there's stuff like that.
Yeah, well said, Buff. 100%. Well, I know we're only 40 minutes in, but I feel like we've once again kind of done the overview, just checking in where we're at, seeing any prices and collections. But I think it's still that holding pattern for now. We're going to need a little bit more juice before we start seeing the random rune collections that start to run and random ordinal collections that start to run. But it definitely seems like a pretty positive step in the right direction, at least over the weekend, and just some sales coming into ordinals. Anything else top of mind for you, or any other talking points you wanted to get in?
Not so much. I think I pretty much hit on everything I wanted to talk about. I know we made the announcement a little bit late, but we still seem to have like a good amount of people listening in, tuning in live. Appreciate you guys. If there's any questions out there, I mean, please feel free to like send it in voice hangout chat, or just hop on and say what you have on your mind, what you think about the market.
Yeah, one of these days we're gonna have to figure out what Silva's up to in the market. We gotta try to get him on last time. I think he said he was busy, but definitely curious what he's been up to these days and if he's been buying anything else.
Yeah, I'd love to have Silver up on here and talking to us. Maybe he's available now, but I don't know. I see he's muted.
Rob, have you seen these frucks that people put out here? Dive Bar shared at the top of our show. There's these frucks that are pretty funny. I think they mint in 2 days at 8 a.m. Pacific time. They're going for a 0.0009. So a little less than $60. There's only 4,848 of them, and it's public, first come first serve at 9 a.m. Could be a good one.
I think like entered a couple of raffles for these, but I didn't even see the result. But yeah, these look semi interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, we saw a lot of the like paint style puppets that came out before, where it's just sort of like, if it's not a complete derivative of puppets, it's pretty similar to it in terms of just the style. But these do seem to have a pretty fun page and name for them, and they got a decent amount of followers. So I wouldn't be surprised if these do decently well. I might look to mint a couple of these. I just popped on the social media here, seeing Dive Bar's share of tweet, and they're pretty fun.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Well, awesome, Lev. As always, man, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad you had a good Memorial Day weekend, and we'll just keep monitoring these charts, dude. Congrats on the Royals mint. That's a huge dub. Really looking forward to talking about reveal next Monday with you, seeing if you got anything rare.
Yeah, that'll be a nice little update. I'll fill you in on what happens there.
Awesome. As always, everybody, been a pleasure. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.